Saturday with Simon Lewis here to show you some little tips and tricks in Scratch, the programming language that you might use in your classroom. This week we're looking at subitising. For those of you who don't know what subitising might be, it's the art of being able to know how many things are in front of you without having to count them. So for example, if you look at those balloons, you probably instinctively knew there were 5 of them there without having to count. What you are good at by knowing that is how to subitise, because you didn't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll notice that children and other who are struggling maybe a little bit with early infant maths would find it very difficult to subitise. So this little activity here gives some ideas on, gives some practice on subitising to a maximum of 10, which is very difficult. Most people can only subitise to about 7 before they have to use other tactics like grouping things together and adding them together to count. Anyway, we are going to have a look at this project. What you need to do to play it is you press the flag. How many balloons you want to show? I'm going to go with 40. If I go with 45, it'll ask me again. If I go with 4 though, it will let me, and then it will ask me to click the go button. 1, 4, and so on. So every time you click go, a whole load of new patterns will show up, and they won't all look in the same place. There's a random pattern as well to make sure things don't get too easy. This is why if you look at a dice, most people don't have to count numbers on a dice, because again, there's a pattern there and it's very easy to pick up. Whereas if you move the 6 dots of the number 6 on a dice differently, you might find it actually hard to recognize your 6. Let's look inside. It is going to cut off a little bit of the stage here. You'll see my arrow here, and a little bit of the stage is being cut off just by my screen. Don't worry too much about that. I have a blank stage, light blue color, and basically what I have are 2 sprites, a go button, and I have a balloon sprite, and we're basically going to focus on cloning. That's really the focus of today's Scratch activity. By clicking on the stage, you'll notice we only have 1 bit of code in the stage, and when we click the green flag, we're setting the maximum to a very high number, because we're just simply asking people, the user, what is the maximum number of balloons we want to show, and basically it has to be under 11, so between 0 and 10. And basically if I set the maximum to 20, it lets us into this loop. If I had set that at 5, it wouldn't go into the loop, and it wouldn't ask the question. So that's why we set the maximum to a number that's actually turns out to be false. Repeat it until max is under 11, ask them the question, wait for the answer. Max now becomes the answer, and we broadcast show the go. And show go means we showed this button, because when you actually hit the arrow, the go button disappears. So let's go to the go button. When the green flag is clicked, we hide it, so it disappears, so you can't click it. When you receive show go, we'll show it, and we'll get it to say click me for 2 seconds, just in case it wasn't that obvious. And when we actually click that sprite, set number, so we set our number to a new variable here called number. So we have 2 variables, just to show you, max, which is the max number, and the number we actually pick. We set number to a random between 1 and max. That's basically our plan. Then we broadcast pop all the balloons and broadcast show balloons. That's interesting. We need to find out what they are. So let's look at the balloons to find those. Before we do that, we will look at when we click on the green flag, we're going to hide the balloons. And when I receive pop all the balloons, we're going to delete this clone. So delete the balloons, and we'll come back to that. Delete this clone means it's going to delete anything that is a balloon sprite. Just keep that in your mind, because when we receive show balloons, we're going to create clones. Okay, so when we delete them, they'll all go away. But when we receive show balloons first, we're going to show the balloon, and then we're going to repeat that balloon a number of times. So it's going to be the number, let's say we pick 5 minus 1, 4. So if we're showing 1, we're adding 4, that's 5 balloons altogether, and we create a clone of ourselves. So basically all it's doing is creating a clone of yourself. Now when you create a clone of yourself, it basically lands exactly where it's to be. So we have to make sure, and this is the hard part about cloning, is when you actually start as a clone, you need to do something about it. So we need to make sure that we have the right position. In this case, we're not manipulating it in any way. We're just repeating it until it isn't touching a particular, touching another balloon, because otherwise they'll be on top of each other and very difficult to subitize. So what we do is until they're not touching this color blue, which is on that balloon, okay, go find a new position. So once it finds a position that isn't touching this blue color, it stays there. And these are your coordinates, your x and y coordinates there. So between minus 120 and plus 120, and then that's where you'll find your balloons. And really, that's kind of it. You hit go. It lets you, it just prints out a load of balloons. And the great thing, I suppose the idea of this activity, it's really a kind of maybe something suitable for learning support, or maybe a starter activity where you pick your number that you think is maximum, and you get the children to look at this and say 1, 2. So that's really what we're doing in this maths activity for Scratch Saturday. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. I hope you learned a little bit about cloning, and we'll see you next time with another video. Thank you.